my people, how you doing? Hope you're having a fantastic damn day. Today we'll be breaking down Oliver Glasner's Eintracht Frankfurt, of course his tactics, how you can replicate them in the game FC24. Of course we will start off by introducing the team with Kevin Trapp between the sticks, the likes of Akio, Koch, as well as Tuta in the defense, and then in the midfield we've got the likes of Max Kiri, Roda, as well as Dina Mbembe, who I absolutely love in this game. He is fantastic. Obviously, if you have him in career mode, I don't think you can go wrong with an absolute flying wing back slash wide right midfielder. Amazing player nonetheless. Then we've got Goetze and as well as Nauf, just behind your striker, which is Mamouche, who is also a fantastic player nonetheless, especially for career mode. As for the formation, I have gone with a 3-4-2-1 formation. I haven't made any changes in terms of taking players and moving their positions around, but what I have done is I've dropped the two wider midfielders, effectively making them slightly deeper, and I've lined them up quite nicely with the two central defensive midfielders. And this does help with more of the defensive attributes that they will try and bring to the game. So effectively, it's one goalkeeper, three centre-backs, two central defensive midfielders, two wide midfielders, two centre-forwards, and then, of course, one striker. Now, with the tactical vision under the likes of Oliver Glasner, I've gone with the tactical vision being set to kick and rush. Of course, they do try and look after the ball and maintain it as best as possible, but at the same time, they also look to try and beat the midfield at times with a quick long ball over the top, trying to potentially bypass both your midfield as well as the opposition's midfield. And you will see with the defensive tactics as well as the instructions with how and why they do try and do this. Of course, your two holding midfielders, they don't really offer too much going forward, and more times than not, it will be a front five and a back five, and they try and halve the team just like that. So more or less, kick and rush does effectively bypass the danger areas of the opposition. Moving on to the defensive style, pressure on heavy touch, it does work quite effectively. They do try and, probe and poke and make sure that the opposition are somewhat uneasy, and then effectively when the opposition make a mistake, they'll look to try and pounce and capitalize and transition into the attack. They have very quick pacey attackers, with Mario Goetze potentially putting the strings just in behind them at times. So you will see that with the instructions as well. The team width is set to 25, making it very compact at the back, making sure it's very hard for the opposition to try and play through. Of course, you are playing a back three, but effectively it does create a back five, meaning that it is a very wide stretched back line that you will have. So your wingers will track back and effectively be wing backs, and they do try and prevent those crosses being fired into the box. As for the depth though, they do tend to play a bit of a mid block at times, with it being set to 45. It does help protect the back line. It does also allow you to not worry too much about any potential counterattacks, because you do know that your mid block is in play, as well as the fact that you have two holding midfielders just sitting in front of your back three, effectively making a back five even when your wing backs bomb on forward. Moving on to the offense though, long ball, it is effective. It is set to be with the kick and rush set to be in play. Of course, you can also look to try and play the ball through the midfield, but it is more of a plan B option. If you have that runner in behind, you want to try and hit them with that quick long ball in behind the opposition's defense, and more or less you can look to do so with the likes of Road or one of your centre backs. Particularly Koch is fantastic at doing so. So I would suggest you are consistently looking for that L1 as well as triangle or left bumper and Y, I think it is for Xbox, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, you are looking for that ball over the top to try and exploit the opposition with. For the chance creation, I've gone with direct passing. So often, if you haven't gone for that long ball and those players haven't made those runs in behind, which they will with the instructions and everything, but if they haven't and you're looking for a bit more directness, passing its feet, trying to look after the ball, more times than not, players will show for the ball, have it knocked into them, have the ability to hold it up, and then look to try and spray it on and get a bit more movement between lines. As for the width, it is set to 25, and what this does is it helps create a front three, but a very narrow front three, looking to try and open up a bit more space in those wider sections for your wing backs to try and operate into. And you will find that more times than not, the defense will try and focus on the front three and quite nicely, effectively leave the wider regions a bit more vacated. The fullbacks won't always try and hone in and lock on your fullbacks, making those advanced runs forward. So 25 to try and keep the likes of Goetze and Mamouche, as well as Nauf, or whoever you are playing in those positions, try and keep them as compact and have them have the ability to link up more effectively. As for the players in the box, I have gone with it set to 7, and now you do want your front three involved, as well as your potential wingback, and of course your other wingback, which will be crossing it, will be looking to try and supply them with a ball, either a cutback opportunity or potentially a cross into the box. So you want to try and flood the box with as many attacking players as possible, and more times than not, it will be 4. Like I said earlier, Your team is going to become somewhat split, with the holding midfielders not adventuring too far forward, as well as your centre backs, obviously. But effectively, your wing backs and your front three do try and attack and try and give the best outlet for the offensive side of things. As for corners and free kicks, as for always, they are set to 4. So starting off at the back with the goalkeeper, in terms of the instructions, we've got the likes of Kevin Trapp. He's set to come for crosses, and in terms of his saving outside of the box, of course, you aren't playing the highest of lines, you're playing a mid-block. You do have fairly decent recovery pace in your back line, so you don't really need him doing too much. So more or less a standardized, traditional goalkeeper where he will look to try and stay on his line and make the saves. But in terms of his come for crosses approach, you will have those balls whipped into the attacking area, and it obviously, with your defensive structure and layout, it does make it very hard for the opposition to have time and space on the ball. So he will be told, claim those crosses, alleviate the stress on the back line, make sure that you're doing your job. And more times than not, as the captain of the team, he does a very, very effective job. I love Kevin Trapp, honestly. When he's at PSG, loved him. When he got his move to Frankfurt, loved him. In career mode, this is a great team to use, by the way. They've got the young, agile players. They've got exciting talent. And even the tactics going forward is very nice. Moving on into the back line now, we've got the likes of Paco as well as Koch. They are set to their same set of instructions, the base set of instructions. Whereas the likes of Tutor, slightly different. I mean, on the left-hand side, it also happens, but not as much as what it does on the right-hand side, which is why I've gone with the instructions for the right. So Tutor, he's set to overlap as well as step up. So when you are building up with the offense, of course, because you have two sitting DMs who don't really adventure too far forward, it does allow you to potentially have an added player trying to get a little bit higher, trying to help out in those wider regions, try and support the left or the right back, or the left or the right midfield, I should say. So you can go with either or, but I've gone with the right-hand side because they do tend to do it a bit more. So you will find your right-sided centre-back being a bit more involved, slightly higher up the field, looking to make those overlapping runs, venture forward, try and be a bit more involved. Not effectively in the offense, but trying to support it a bit more effectively, joining up effectively with your two central defensive midfielders. Which, moving on to, they have got the same set of instructions with a slight tweak and variation to it. The likes of Road, he is set to be a bit more of the deep-lying playmaker, allowing him to collect the ball off the back line and then progress it forward. But nonetheless, they will always try and sit in front of the back line, not always looking to adventure too far forward. Sometimes the likes of Road will do so with this set of instructions, but more times than not, their instructions are sit and protect, and they do that very effectively. So, as for the likes of Road, he's set to cut past gains and have a balanced attack. Now, with the other instructions, you'll see why it more or less balances itself out, where he will be told to just sit, but having a bit more freedom, a bit more of the box-to-box role when needed, supporting the offense, getting a bit further forward, trying to be a bit more of the attacking presence of the two. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on for him, as well as being the deep-lying playmaker. And because he has this role, he won't always get that far forward. He will have the role of collecting it off the goalkeeper or the back three, and then progressing it forward, looking to try and maintain and keep the structure of that midfield at times. And then, of course, cover the center, looking to create that box or that midfield shield in front of the back three at times, looking to consistently try and protect them. Like I said earlier, it's a front five attacking and a back five defending. More times than not, your wing backs are attacking. More times than not, your two defensive midfielders are defending. And speaking of defensive midfielders, moving on to the other one now, we've got Skiri, who is also set to cut pass hands, but this time stay back while attacking, going to be the out-and-out dominant defensive player of the two. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on for him, as well as being told to stick to his position and then cover the center. Similar to Roda, but slightly different. Of course, you want him also forming that shield, protecting that back three, sitting in front of them only, not doing too much, trying to disrupt and disturb the offensive build-up of the opposition going forward. And speaking of going forward, we're moving into the attack now. The likes of Max as well as Dina Ebembe. I can't pronounce his name, but I know he is a fantastic player. He's got a real face, by the way. So if you are interested in potential right midfielders / right wing backs / right backs, he can even be changed into a central midfielder at times, because I think it takes like 2 to 4 weeks to get him there, but effectively a fantastic talent to have. But I'm waffling, so we'll continue with it. But as for your wider midfielders, they've got the same set of instructions, so both will be instructed to come back, help out on those wider regions in terms of the defensive areas, looking to try and track those runners in behind them. Staying wide is essential. Of course, it's a very, very narrow structure that you're trying to create, almost spearheaded by your front three. But more times than not, you want these players staying out wide, because there will be a lot of space in those wider regions, because a lot of your focus is centered into the center of the field. So your wider players will have a lot more space to try and attack and get in behind the opposition's backline with, of course, like I said, it's going to be direct passing. You want the ball into feet and knocking it on, but you also want those runners in behind because you do have the ability to spray those long balls, whether it's with the likes of Roda or, like I said, the likes of Koch. Even the likes of Kevin Trapp can potentially spring that long ball forward, as well as Mario Götze. So getting those runners in behind is effective. Trying to stretch the opposition at times, you can do this 100%. As for the interceptions, it's set to normal, as well as support on crosses is set to balance. Sometimes making those advancing runs into the box, other times looking to hang around the area a bit more, trying to facilitate. Of course, your midfield pivots will slightly move up and look to try and help with the rotation of the ball, trying to find better opportunities and better crossing moments for your team. But again, they won't be as involved. So you want your wingbacks having a bit more of a freer role and not being told just get into the box every single time. As for the likes of Dina Ebembe, he's got the same set of instructions as well. Okay, now moving into our front three, the likes of Götze and Nauf. Götze has a slightly differing role compared to the other two, but we will get to that soon enough. But the likes of Mario Götze, he's set to stay central and play as a false nine, often dropping into the midfield because your two pivots, or your double pivot, I should say, they don't really get too far forward. They need a bit more of a linking chain, and that's what Mario Götze is. He does look to try and drop deep, link up more effectively with the double pivot that you have in your midfield, get onto the ball a bit more, and then look to try and facilitate for others. Normal interceptions are set to be on for him, as well as having the ability to come deep and drop off the back line at times. Like I say, this does help with getting him a bit deeper, having him a bit more involved in the lower end of the offensive build-up going forward, and it's more effective for drawing players out of position. Moving on to the likes of Nauf, he's set to having a balance with and getting in behind. Both Nauf as well as Marmoush will have this ability to try and spring that quick run in behind, waiting for that long ball over the top. Aggressive interceptions are set to be on form. Like I say, you are looking to try and press and probe in certain moments, and when that mistake happens, you'll see as a unit, your team will push up against the 3 or 4 players that have made that mistake and try and win that ball back, and then transition into the attack, and obviously getting in behind works out quite well with that. And then as for the defensive support, not always looking to come back, but when need be, when under the cosh, your front 3 will effectively just drop a bit deeper, looking to try and get on the ball a bit more, and then look to try and trigger the counter-attacks and so on. And then finally, as for your striker, a very similar role to your left-sided attacking player, or your left-sided centre forward. Having a balance with is essential. Making those runs in and out of the box, more or less arcing them in and out is effective, and it does work out quite well, especially with the likes of Götze not really taking up that right-hand space all the time. Getting in behind though, again, very much like Nauf, as well as aggressive interceptions, looking to try and press and be aggressive with it. And then finally, having the defensive support set to basic. So again, your front 2 essentially is going to be Nauf and Marmoush, with Götze pulling the strings just in behind them. But again, having the ability to get in behind, stretch that back line of the opposition, opening up a bit more space for your wider players to try and work with and whip in crosses. It is very, very effective. And to be honest with you guys, for Ultimate Team, it's a very structured and rigid backline formation that you have, but it's very safe and secure. Not once when I've been trying out these tactics have I felt like I was going to concede a crazy, open goal. It's a very structured backline that you have with a nice shield in front of it. So yes, people, that is my version of Oliver Glasner's 3-4-2-1. I know he said 3-4-1-2, but point is, it is essentially that. But point is, it's a fantastic lineup, a fantastic set of tactics that I think you guys could definitely use either in your career modes or potentially your ultimate team. So let me know down below if you can, of course. No rush. Hit that like button, please, or the dislike button. I don't mind. You tell me, and we can go from there. But nonetheless, guys, I hope you have a fantastic damn day. I'm going to go work on the next video for tomorrow, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'm out!